Last night I did a bit of a video, but I felt like I just kept repeating Gene Wilder's name. But I want to talk specifically about Blazing Saddles and why it's an important film to me and an important film to have in my collection, and important to have as a 4K. Because like some of these pictures are like, oh, obviously you want to have I don't know, Apocalypse Now in 4K, high fidelity, like, would you want to have a comedy like Stripes or, something that isn't necessarily visually super dynamic? Why would you have the highest resolution, highest quality available? And a big part of in particular, physical media and 4K UHD collection for me is that it's my own personal film preservation, if that makes any sense. That, I'm blessed to live in a city that has like movie theaters like the New Beverly and the Vista. And the New Beverly, I just happen to have this in my bag. We went over the weekend and we saw Spider-Man 3 at a kids matinee. But like, you can come to Los Angeles and go to the New Beverly Theater, and this weekend they're going to show, like tonight and tomorrow night, they're showing The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance on the big screen. They're showing The Departed this weekend, Double Life of Veronica and the Three Colors Red. They're showing Zatoichi, The Fugitive, and Zatoichi on the Road. They're showing Jaws, RoboCop, The Terminator, celebration of Gene Hackman with Mississippi Burning and Hoosiers, and the triplets of Bellevue. They're showing The Wolfman and The Mummy. But like, the point being, when I was growing up in the 70s, like Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, Spartacus, these movies were not available anywhere. Like, once it finished its theatrical run, it was gone. Like, it was press kits, photos, pictures, and books. That was kind of the extent of where you might be able to find it. The prints existed in a vault at wherever. Either they would destroy the prints or they would hold on to the prints, or keep them in a vault. Like when you go to the Paramount lot, for example, you can see like these massive vaults that still contain prints of films, and over time they degrade and fall apart. And anyway, having the highest quality scan of these movies available for purchase now allows you to be able to have your own personal film library, and that's what I'm doing. And not that I need to collect everything. That's why I want to curate what is in my collection and why it's important to me personally. So Blazing Saddles occupies that space. And full transparency, I got my teenage daughter is very progressive minded and very concerned about whether certain things are appropriate regardless of when they were made. And Blazing Saddles is one of those pictures that faces racism so squarely head on that most people will say Blazing Saddles is one of those movies that can't be made today. And I would argue it can, but it needs to be done with the same thoughtfulness and intelligence and clarity of vision. And that's what Richard Pryor's script and Paul Mooney co-wrote. That's what that script successfully does, and what Mel Brooks was so deft at doing, of taking on sensitive, important issues. And this movie came out in 67, 68, 69, height of the civil rights movement. Like, our country was in. Was it then? I believe, hang on a second. I believe, I got to double check when it came out, but like within 10 years of that time, and it was significant. So much so that they aired that movie on television and they didn't censor the N-word. Like, it just broadcast on ABC or NBC or CBS, the N-word in that movie all over the place, and it ran on television. And that was how a lot of us saw it. They cut some things out and added some some hijinks with Mongo, with Alex Karras, to compensate for some of the harder stuff that they showed in the film. But the racial stuff was all there. So what they were able to do, or what the creators of Blazing Saddles were able to do, was kind of like, it was what Richard Pryor said in Silver Streak. There's a great story about, there's the scene where Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor are in a bathroom and they're trying to avoid detection by the police because Gene Wilder's wanted for murder. And Pryor has this idea where he's going to put him in blackface and put like a hat on his head and listen to a radio to walk past cops. And he's doing like a really bad version of a black stereotype. And they wrote the scene, they shot the scene, and Gene Wilder tells the story of going back to the hotel the next night and Richard being upset, and quietly so. And Wilder knew him at that point well enough to be able to say, Richard, I can tell that something's bothering you. What is it? Is it the scene? Is it whatever? And he was like, well, the problem is you smear black paint on your face, act in a stereotypical manner, and it fools people. And that just informs and supports the stereotype. And Gene took that in, and they went back to the script and changed it. And you can see now where they're in the bathroom, he's putting the shoe polish on his face, and he's practicing, and Pryor's coaching him, and there's an older African-American man in there watching him. And the way they solved that was that character says, it ain't working, bro. Like something along those lines. And it pulls the laugh and makes it clear that through that process, it basically, it highlights the racism of the cops who are looking for him, and deftly handles that particular issue. It's so dicey. Like when you look at satire like South Park and Tropic Thunder, there are points of view that are, it's walking a tightrope, and when you can walk that tightrope successfully, it's a masterclass. It just requires thoughtfulness, and that's one of the things I feel is most lacking in a lot of American comedy, is that we aren't thoughtful and really consider what's the clear point of view and how can we sharpen that point of view so that the point is successfully made. Blazing Saddles accomplishes that. It indicts the racist tendency of that community, of the people of Rock Ridge, but it also, through going through the process of working with Cleavon Little's character of Bart, that the community is changed by their experience. And it's a genius film, and terribly funny, and bawdy, and it's a masterpiece. In fact, the theme song is performed, it's not by the Sons of the Pioneers. The Sons of the Pioneers did the music for the Searchers, but like the guy who did the title sequence for Blazing Saddles didn't know that it was a comedy, and that was the intention. They wanted it to be as purely The Thing as possible, and I think that's what makes great parody and great satire work. Same thing with Young Frankenstein. And I'll talk. Young Frankenstein hasn't been released in UHD, I believe, in 4K. But when it is, I'll definitely add it to my collection. I may be wrong. But anyway, that's my Blazing Saddle story. I'm sticking to it. More later. Physical media forever. But it's a worthy addition to my collection, and I'm proud to have it. And I just wanted to talk with a little bit more clarity and specificity about it than I did last night. So there you go. All right. Peace.